Pokemon. Nearly everyone in the world who has access to electricity has at least heard of Pokemon. The franchise spans nearly 30 years now, making it one of only a few IPs that bridge multiple generations. Over the last 27 years, not much has changed about the game's catch-em-all quest, nor has much changed about the battle system. It's your basic turn-based menu system, with only a few changes made over the years in terms of mechanics. There's always been a typing system, not unlike a rock, paper, scissors game of water beats fire, fire beats grass, grass beats water, etc. And they've only added 3 new types over these years: dark type, steel type, and fairy type. Now, they have tried changing up the battles here and there, some of which stuck around for the long haul while others didn't. Multi-battles, introduced in Gen 3, is a format where each trainer or trainers has 2 Pokemon on the field. Horde battles, introduced in Gen 6, were a type of wild Pokemon encounter where up to 5 wild Pokemon would appear in battle at the same time. Mega Evolutions, also introduced in Gen 6, were a temporary extra evolution to select Pokemon lines, which would change their form and typing until the end of the battle. A held item would allow for these evolutions, and this format stuck around for a few other games, such as the Gen 3 remakes, but didn't make a reappearance in Gen 7 or 8. There have been what feels like hundreds of new attacks added to the games, some of which are just copies of other attacks, or just signature moves such as Oblivion Wing, which is only accessible to Yveltal, the legendary of Pokemon Y. There have also been many attacks removed from the game, or taken from Pokemon's move pools for balancing reasons, they say. And of course, there have been a lot of new Pokemon added, as well as some scrapped ideas from prior Pokemon games, who eventually made their way into later releases. While plenty of these new mons were cool and unique, a fair share have been mid and shallow. I mean, who doesn't love Clink and Trubbish, am I right? Anybody? Nobody? No, I didn't think so. That's because they're fucking stupid and nobody likes them. Stop that shit. But I suppose I can't blame them. I'm sure it isn't easy to come up with just over 1,000 monsters now. So, moving right along. Today I got with me an old friend, Doomasect. Say hi, Doom.
Do I have to?
I mean, you don't, but I mean...
I will never say hi.
Alright, anyways.
Even though I just did.
Yeah, you technically did say hi. Hi was in that sense, so,
You'll know that.
Get wrecked. So, do you think the games are heading in a better direction or a worse direction overall?
I think overall, just generally, yeah, I think they're getting worse. The quality's going down. The gameplay loop is still fantastic, but it's very hard to mess that up.
Agreed.
But yeah, overall quality is just it's worse. It's for sure worse.
So you would think that over time it would be getting better as they get better hardware and learn how to use it. But that right there, I believe, is the problem. They don't know how to use it.
I agree with that. I don't think they know how to use it. And my other problem is, especially from going back playing older games, and then, moving through the generations, there's really good ideas they implement and then just drop them. And it's just like, these aren't gimmick implements, or they're not implementing the things I'm talking about aren't gimmicks. Obviously something like hidden grottos, secret bases. It's just like, these are things that could be core aspects of the Pokemon series, and they've just dropped them. And we think of them now as being only to those specific generations, and it's just like, I can't think of another franchise that's really done that. Usually when a series comes out and they come up with these ideas, they just become part of the series.
Absolutely.
as you get the later games, they become there's just more and more stuff to do. As we're with Pokemon, it's like, well, you've got the main loop, and that's all there is. And there's the main loop, and then there's these things that we're gonna try this out, and it's probably not gonna stick.
I've noticed that their post-game content in the last couple days or couple games have almost been experimental.
Because I'm at this point, I'm assuming we're gonna get more Legends series. They got too good of feedback.
Johto!
I don't necessarily know if we'll do Johto next. Um, possibly just me trying to project here of what I would really want. I feel like if we get something new, because it's like we've done the past. We went to the past for what the hell was Sinnoh? And it's just like that's cool. What I'd like to see now, because obviously we're going to Gen 5 next, and it's just like
Right, the remakes are bound, they're inevitable.
we've already progressed like 3 years into the future once, and I'm just over here like, could we get like a far future cyberpunk Pokemon fucking Unova Legends Unova?
Well, I don't know, because Arceus didn't explain anything. It's just kind of like, here's
Yeah,
this fucking thing.
they really did, and they kept talking about like we're gonna talk about the great almighty Sinnoh or whatever it was, and I'm just over here like, isn't that the name of the region? They
Yeah.
kept like passing it off as like it was almost an idea instead of the region. It's just like it's very confusing. It's a very confusing way to have done that.
Right, that'd be like if we just renamed the US God.
Yeah. And they kept doing that, and it's just like, so is this not supposed to be like the Sinnoh we know? Or yeah, I wasn't quite sure what was going on there.
Alright, so what is it that, since you said that the quality is more on a downtick, what is it that you think needs to be improved the most to have the next game, or even the DLCs upcoming, kind of lift up towards a better direction?
I can't see it getting implemented with the DLCs because it is,
I agree.
for me, it's an overhaul. You need to take a step back and basically just
Almost
general
an internal overhaul within their own group, like within their own systems.
I mean, really, really everything. I know. Obviously, one of the big things I've been focusing on, not that my YouTube channel has shown it, but with the videos that I want to hopefully eventually end up putting up on it, I've been focusing on move pools, just because I think that is the bare minimum when it comes to balancing stuff. But just in that same vein of balance, not so much, I guess, in Scarlet and Violet because they did things differently, but like with Sword and Shield, we had gems that were, this is just a hallway, and it's just like, I mean, that there's the one gym, I think it's the 7th gym, which is also a town, and it is just a hallway. It is just you walk left, or you walk right.
There's been a few of those lately.
Basically, since Generation 6, since they went to 3D, there has been very, very disappointing routes where it's just like,
I agree.
I mean, I guess disappointing routes have kind of always been a thing at times. I think of I believe it is the route in the first game from Saffron to what the hell's the big city? It's not Cerulean, is it?
Celadon?
Celadon. I kept wanting to say Goldenrod, and it's like I know it's not Goldenrod. That's
The
Gen
other
2.
game corner. The other game corner.
Yeah. Yeah, that
It's literally
tiny
it's
little
just
route that
one.
is,
It's one
yeah,
grass patch and a hedge, or like a fucking thing you jump down. That's it.
yeah, it literally, you fucking your character will walk across that in 3 seconds. It's like, so there's always been disappointing routes, but I feel like that is something that should have just been phased out as we have moved this far, and it really hasn't. And obviously now we're in open world, and there really aren't routes. But even at that, with like Scarlet and Violet, there was a lot of times just kind of flying around, just moving around. It's just like there's really not for finally getting the open world Pokemon game, this big open, plane that we can fully explore. I'm just over here like, I don't know if I really want to explore all of this. Like, you go over to the part and it's like, oh cool, there's I came all this way and there's like some Slowpoke and Slowbro that were also just right over there.
They
So why
started
did
you
I
out
come
with
over here?
They started out with excellent choices. Like right out of the gate, it's like, bam, this thing has 500 stat.
Yeah. No, they really did. And boy, part of me likes that. Part of me is also like, they set the bar so high with just when you first get free, it's just like, oh man, there is so much stuff.
I
Yeah, me
actually
find
really enjoyed the exploring around and everything. But you're absolutely right. It's like you go to a place and it's like
it, it
I've seen that since the game started. I don't need one of those.
it reminds me a lot. I think it was like the main strength, but also kind of the downfall of the wild area in Sword and Shield, where it's like when you first get into it, this is awesome, this is fantastic. But then the further you get into it, it's just like, so kind of done all this already. Like
Right. There's like four little areas and they're not exactly huge.
I mean, I guess a good example would be, so there is the one town. In order to get to it, you got to go through the caves. And I really liked going through the cave. And then I came up and it's like, oh, this is kind of meant to be like it gave me the feel of it's supposed to kind of be like the creepy psychic fairy town. But then
Yeah.
as I'm sitting there like running around, it's just like, for as many of those type of Pokemon as we have access to, I felt like the selection out around there was very limited.
That was where it was like the teacups and a
Yeah, yeah.
poltergeist and whatnot.
I'm was sitting there thinking of like trying to remember what the um regional variants were called, and it's like, okay, there was a Alolan. It's like, what the hell's the next one? It's like, oh yeah, Galeria. I was like, wait, what the hell is the new one? Had to look it up. It's like,
Oh
oh
yeah, I actually just I was just like, Galar isn't the new one.
Yeah,
Wait.
it's just like, oh,
It's Paladia. That's right.
it's just like, okay, I know the region is based on Spain. What the hell was it actually called in game? That was the Elite Four when he had to do the interview, and they're like, what was this person's name? And it's just like, I do
Fuck
not
if I
remember
know.
these people's names, dude. Like, you are asking a lot here, Game Freak. Like, you did not make a lot of these characters super memorable. What was the name of this town? Oh,
In fact, one of the most memorable people is literally one of the most bland fucking people, the business.
yeah, Larry. Larry is the frickin' Chad of the game. The only other one I can remember other than Larry is Tulip, and it's just because it's like, oh hey, we finally got the new Nessa, and
oh yeah,
she's
finally.
not as good as Nessa, so
so what the fuck?
I'm not gonna lie, other than those two, I don't know if I could tell you a single of the new gym leaders' names.
You know, I couldn't have even told you Larry's.
I did like though that you took that quiz and you got done with it. They're just sitting there at the end like, that doesn't sound right. It's just like, man, that is not my fault. You gotta make stuff more memorable.
Right, like I'm sorry, but it just melts away now. I'm not gonna lie, at this point, a lot of games, especially Pokemon, I just mash through. Like I get the basic idea as I'm playing through it, like I speed read everything, but it's just this one actually I kinda did like the having to go down to the area 0 and whatnot, and
Area Zero. This is one of the things that has bugged me about this game so much is I've been seeing all these things online that they're talking about uh the Pokemon games with the best story. And always on the list is Gen 5, Gen 7, and now this new one, Gen 9. It's just like, okay. Gen
wait,
5, I
people
think,
thought Gen 7 had the best story?
yes, and I'll kind of agree with it because I really like the stuff with Lily and Luzamine. And with
Fair,
that,
yeah.
but there's my problem with that. I like those characters. I do not like the story.
Okay, yeah, that's fair too.
And that's kind of my problem with Gen 9 is it's like everyone remembers the Area Zero stuff and how awesome that is, and I'm just like, that is such a little part of the game.
It really is, but for some reason, it's the coolest part of the game.
It is without a doubt the coolest part of the game, but I hate that it is. People are over here like, oh yeah, this is such a good return to story, and they compare it to Gen 5, and it's like Gen 5 I'm not gonna lie, I don't think Gen 5's story was as good as a lot of people make it out to be. Part of me probably skews more towards it having the best story too because they have sequels. And it's just like, oh yeah, there's a part 2. So we've never gotten that again, so it's a much worse story,
I think the only
which
thing
is
I really liked about Gen
brutal.
7 was the final battle with
And
was it
that has
Lumi's?
been taken out in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
And that was like, well, you literally just nuked
Yeah.
literally the only thing that I had that I was like, that part was awesome. I want more of that. And they're like, no.
Yeah, the final fight in those now is Ultra Necrozma, which I will admit, it was a hard fight the first time I fought it, where it sweeped my entire team. And then the next time I fought it, I didn't lose a single thing because I killed it in 2 hits. So it's just like, yeah, that's before we got like Dynamax and everything. I was just like, this is probably the only way they can actually do a Pokemon boss fight. Only for the next generation to come out and be like, oh no, we can actually do a competent boss fight. It's just you got to change the mechanics up a slight bit.
Okay, so speaking of Dynamax, what what do you think, like how would you compare Terra raids to max raid dens?
I think they're pretty lateral overall. I I probably lean more towards liking Terra raids just because they're harder.
They
Um,
are a little extra spicy. Sometimes they're really easy though.
they can be. Um, sorry about that. Um,
How dare you? This
speaking of
could
extra
affect our
spicy,
friendship.
there was a lot of people that bitched very, very heavily about um Dynamax raids. They didn't like how slow they went. They didn't like how incompetent the computers were, which that fair. I get that.
They were
It was
awful.
very annoying when you got the guy. It's like you're fighting a Tentacruel. It's like, well, I'm gonna bring my Torkoal. It's just like, Why?
You
Why are
stupid,
you here?
stupid son of a bitch.
That or you got the Eevee kid and the magic cart person in the same one. It's just like, oh my god,
You
why?
might as well just restart. Just like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna run.
And yeah, so they fixed that. That was the first thing everyone was saying. It's like, oh, they fixed the computer raids, and it's like, yeah, the NPCs that help you out are much better. The problem now is some of them have been made so difficult, and it's really showing that there's a lot of people that play these games that do not understand the core shit of Pokemon. It's just like, yeah, you're gonna bring this thing in. You're gonna bring in this sweeper that's excellent and competitive, and is absolutely terrible for Terra raids. And yeah, it's like, oh yeah, look at that. This really fast Pokemon, that's all attack and no defense. Oh yeah, look, it's dead. It's dead again, and there goes our timer, and we're getting kicked out.
Yeah.
And
Bam. Done.
yeah, that I would say I don't see it as much anymore, but I also haven't been playing a ton. Um, but I know when I was doing a lot of raids there for a while, and you would just see people bringing in sweepers, and it's just like, why? Why are you? This is an endurance match. These are not the things you bring into the endurance fight. You're bringing in things with these 120 power recoil moves.
It's like
Things
this is
things like
working against you.
yeah, things like Talonflame. And I'm just looking at it. It's like you're hardly doing any damage. You're hurting yourself, and it's hurting you. And
It's
it's like,
this
why are
just
you bringing this to
doesn't
the
work.
fight?
Right, that makes no sense.
Like, does it even know Roost? Probably not.
Something like
Some of the Terra combinations are brutal. There was one,
that. Absolutely.
I can't remember what I was actually fighting, but it was a ground type, but it was or ground Terra type, but it was it was a Raichu that had ground Terra type, but obviously Raichu is an electric Pokemon. It's just like, oh, I can't really bring in a water type because it's weak to
Because
that.
you're gonna get absolutely wrecked.
Or when something is, I think probably the most brutal one is when you get a electric Terra type, but it's a water Pokemon, because it's like it's only weak to ground now, and it's gonna have water moves.
Oh, absolutely. So
It's
it's
just
gonna
like,
hurt you.
it's just, you've got to bring something in then that's basically just normal effectiveness, and it's just like,
Yeah.
you lose off so much damage
Basically
just from that
forces you.
alone.
Yeah. And then you gotta wear down the timer that whole time.
Yeah, it's moments like that where it's just like having a very beefy, hard hitting normal type is just amazing for those. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I probably uh, do scale more towards Terra raids, just because yeah, they make you, especially with some of the harder ones, they make you think, and it's just like, oh man, you start to realize, the kind of core principles about Pokemon are just, they're a little more complicated than, oh hey, I just need to spam flamethrower at the plant Pokemon because that will
Right.
kill it.
Right, because the rock, paper, scissors of the core old gameplay. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. This conversation went on a little bit longer than I intended it to, so be sure to check back for parts 2 and 3 coming in the near future. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care, everybody. Peace.